As human beings, we need a sense of belonging, and that sense of belonging is what connects us to the many relationships we develop. Some of those relationships, however, helps us to build a stronger community. Awujo Jones and Kunle Fakiyesi join me today to talk about a project that they are working on in the African community of Nova Scotia. Gentlemen, it's good to have you in the studio.
It's great to be here, Promise.
Thank you, Promise.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure.
And the last time we had a talk here, Augie, we talked about your project, your pet project, Empathize Others.
Yes.
We also talked about some of the challenges affecting the Black community here in Nova Scotia.
Yes.
And I'm wondering today, what have you brought to share with our viewers?
Well, I think we want to thank you for the interview, our original interview, because I think it got a lot of viewership and traction and a lot of talking around positive talk around the issue of how we can be one. And I think, you know, for me as an African Nova Scotian, I'm not from Mi'kmaq. I'm not Indigenous. I'm actually Indigenous to Africa. And so we know that there's perceived tension, real tension, lack of relationships between the people who have been here for a long time, who are African ancestry, those people that come from the West, from the Caribbean, who are African ancestry, and then of course those people that come from the actual continent. There seems to be a disconnect as though they're separate communities when I think they're actually one. So what you're going to hear today is comes out of our interview, which led to me meeting Kunle, which meant to us getting together and trying to come up with a real simple way to start the process. And so I'll throw it to Kunle, but this is that it came out of our interview that it now we have something to share with the public.
This is interesting. Kunle, you are one of the renowned leaders of the African communities here in Nova Scotia. And of course, when this chat went out there, the interview, there were a lot of feedback, and I guess it's part of the reason that you have come in today with Augie. Tell us, what has been the people's thought about what we discussed about and how it's brought about this relationship you have now?
Thank you, Promise. Well, I saw that interview you had with Augie, and immediately I picked up the phone and I said, it resonated a lot with me that I need to connect with this gentleman and we need to take this conversation forward. Because even in our community, we've been having those little private sidebar conversations about, you know, why is it that we come into this space, we don't get really to appreciate the full extent of the work that the Black people that were here before us have done. You know, we come in and we just get things at the snap of a finger and we think it's easy, it's like that. But the reality is that a lot of people have actually laid that groundwork for it to be so for us. So what can we do to begin to break down these barriers in, you know, reaching out to the existing communities here, whether they've been here for 400 years or whether we've been here for 4 years or 4 weeks, because we need to build that continuum and we need to understand the viewpoint of both parties. So myself and Augie got together with Benga and we started really pulling this thread to see what we can do. And that's what led to part of the things we're going to be talking about here today.
Awesome. And let's get into the meat of the matter and tell me, Augie, you probably have built out a structure, a plan of how we want to proceed with this great idea of yours.
Yes.
Can you give us a sense of what it looks like?
Yeah, and Promise, with that, I do want to share some of the thoughts on how this got created, because I think it's important to know that we first sat down and thought, one, we need to bring people together. We knew that. But we also thought about, one, what were some of the barriers, because this is not a new conversation. So what were some of the barriers why this hasn't been done already, even in just the meeting, people being able to meet? And one of the things we came up with was we wanted to take as many of the organizational, abstract 40,000 feet type pieces out of it and just make it a people to people, man to man, woman to woman, African to African conversation.
Right.
So we came up with an hour session, which we wanted to be a very social session, but also educational. And we're going to have that session every Friday at the end of the month. And at this moment, Hope Blooms, which is a growing company in the north end of Halifax, they've opened up their doors to us, and it's a really nice space on Brunswick Street. So we're going to set it up so it can be a very kind of meet and greet situation. And in the hour structure, we really want people to come not as someone from DPAD or from ANSA or from the Nigerian Association or from Somalian Association. We want you to come as yourself. And we want you to come with a love for Africa and wanting to talk about that. And we know that, and I can get into this a little more later, but there's a sharing of information that needs to happen so that we can all be well here. Because we want to be well, and we want our families to be well, and we want our children to be well. And so in Nova Scotia or New Scotland, it's important that we support each other. And that's not really what's happening. So we thought organizations are great, and we know that they work on a political and governmental level and moving systems and change, but we didn't think that was how we should front this. And we're calling it Awujo. And Kunle can talk more about that. But this Awujo session we're going to have is very relational, very positive, very non-denominational. The main focus, I remember we were talking off before we started about eating from one bowl.
Right.
We want to eat from one bowl.
Awesome. I think that's a very fantastic idea. But Kunle, of course, Jones, Augie has thrown it to you.
Right.
You call it Awujo, and I'm not sure what that means really. And what exactly is your role in the scheme of things?
Thank you. So Awujo is derived from the Yoruba language of Africa, one of the most widely spoken languages on the continent. It basically means gathering.
Right.
So a gathering of people. And like Augie said, the emphasis is for us to gather people of African descent together as people, not as who they represent. That is very, very foundational and crucial to what we hope to build. So when you walk through the door, fine, you might be working for ANSA or DPAD or belong to any organization, but we want you to walk in as you. We want you to come like a blank slate. We want you to build relationships with different people who share a common link. The common link is your African ancestry.
Yes.
So we want people to cross-fertilize ideas and knowledge. I want to meet you, promise as promised, and then build a friendship with you in hopes that will lead to something bigger. Yeah. Once we understand ourselves at that foundational level, without the prism or the lens of coming through an organization, I think it's easier for us to get to know what drives us as human beings, what motivates us, irrespective of where we come from, whether we come from Jamaica or we come from Nigeria or we come from Kenya. We all share the same humanity. And when we now come into this space called Nova Scotia and we meet people that have been here for way longer than us, that also share the same color of our skin, there's a lot to learn from them. We have to figure out ways to break down those barriers.
Right.
And we think an unstructured or very lightly structured situation or space, very safe, accommodating space is the best, or is one of the vehicles through which we can accomplish that.
Right. I have a follow-up question on that. But people would say, you already have organizations here. Like we have the Kenyans, we have the Tanzanians, the Zambians, and Nigerians, and so on. Why not leveraging these platforms? What exactly are you going to do differently? Because there may have been some attempts in the past to have that sort of bridging that gap type of thing. Why is this one going to be different from all the attempts?
So we all have organizations, right? But some of these organizations have existed for 40 years, 35 years, or even longer. So we believe that some of the barriers are the fact that people come through the organizations. When you come through an organization, you already have an agenda. You already have an interest you are bringing into the table. If you're coming as a representative of the Jamaican group, you are coming to protect the interest of the Jamaican group. You are not really coming with an open mind. So I think the beauty of this and what we're trying to leverage on is just the simplicity. Because we are so used to excessive structure, it will take a little while for people to wrap their minds around it, really. But the simplicity, the fact that you can just walk through the door as you, and then meet new people and interact with new people and hope to get meaningful connections and build meaningful relationships and learn meaningful things that you can take back home, to your family and cross-fertilize ideas. So the next time I see you on the street, I know that I know you, not because of who you represent, not because you come from the Somali community or the St. Lucia community, but because you're just another Black person who's trying to navigate this space we call New Scotland.
Yeah,
that's important we call it New Scotland and not Nova Scotia, because that also actually helps us to understand that this space was defined by some people, and because of that definition, there have been roles that have kind of been assigned to us, and it's up to us to see how we can break out of those stereotypes and make the place better for ourselves and people that are coming behind us.
Right. Okay. You last conversation we had, you said so many very interesting things. One of them was that most of the things you do, they bring you back to African. So you sound Africanic. There's some sense of passion towards bringing Africans together and being that
Yes.
central person who is helping to be the glue
Yes.
in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
What is the level of buy-in you're getting from your community, the African Nova Scotians in this case?
I think there's a lot of like-minded people that have been, and to follow up on Kunle's point, I think that organizations and coming from that view first has been a hindrance. So it's not like, so you're almost taking off that jacket and trying to build relationships without that jacket. When you leave Awujo, you're back to wearing that jacket. We all are working and we're all in certain organizations. And what we're hoping is that the natural, simplistic building of relationships and friendships will obviously link on. So we do this on a Friday, and on Monday I phone a friend that I met at Awujo, and they're a graphic artist, and I'm the principal at NSCC. So now I go, hey, I need a mural on my wall. I'm going to talk to Benga or like so I think that it's not, it may seem simple, but it's actually beautifully complex, that we want relations to be the center, and then as a seed grows, it grows out of the relational part.
Absolutely.
I think that in this space we want at first like-minded people. When I say that, I'll use the phrase Pan-African. So a Pan-Africanist point of view, so we can get the oneness. Because I guess organizations, I was thinking as Kunle was speaking, is that organizations in their roles tend to have a division. So JCANs or like, and not in a negative way, they have a certain reason for being. So they almost go outwards and become, divergent. But we want to be convergent. So in that, if we just meet each other as men and women, and we're obviously of African ancestry, and I'm very proud to be of African ancestry.
Yes.
I think that's what makes me
Of course,
me.
you're very passionate about this. I've watched you on all the platforms too, talking about the same thing. But one is wondering, how do you intend to get this like-minded people? And if you can also give us a picture of what your meetings would look like. I mean, the program itself,
Yes.
an agenda, if you have that, anything
Yes.
built, can you share with us?
No, I can. These are great questions. And so I think at first when myself and Benga and Kunle sat down, we could come up with 30 people that we know, friends, relatives, who have had these conversations, who we could invite. We knew that. We also knew that once we put it on community updates, that there would be people who go, yes, I'm also ready for that conversation. And readiness is key. Be ready to bring the positivity.
Right.
Be ready to network. Be ready to share. Be ready to learn. These are the things, if you're in that space, you're welcome to Awujo.
Right.
That's what we want. The structure, though, is not such that we're just getting together to have a beer. We've structured an hour where the first 15 to 20 minutes will be some type of presentation. Sometimes it will be an African Nova Scotian presentation. Sometimes it will be from the continent. Sometimes it will be from the Caribbean. But we're always going to have a stimulus in that first 15, 20 minutes. Then we are going to have a period after the keynote speaker where you have to meet someone you don't know. Purposely set up. So do not gravitate to the people that you know already. We will facilitate this to make sure that we get groups of people after the talk at tables, meeting each other, exchanging business cards if they want, maybe not, who knows? Maybe it's exchanging LinkedIn information. But that will be something that will, I think, energize people and create that networking situation. And then for the last half an hour to 40 minutes, we will then go back to the theme of the keynote speaker and open up the floor. And we just see that as really energizing, that it's not just the keynote speaker unless I ask that person questions. It's keynote speaker, meet someone you don't know, and then let's all of us talk about something and open it up. And we're hoping that that format really gets the most out of the hour.
I agree with you. And what do you think people, especially who just probably think it's going to be one of those organizations that have failed in the past, what is this message you want to really send down to them?
Thank you very much. Before I go into that question, I would also like to add that even the spaces where we will be having these meetings or events are African spaces.
Yes.
So for instance, we plan to have the first one at the end of this month at Hope Blooms. Hope Blooms is a place that's well known within the community, especially the African community and the African Nova Scotian community. It's in the north end of Halifax, a place where we can really call our own place, and they are excited, to host us for that. And then back to your question, like what will people think? That is this not some other organization? Again, you're using the word organization. So, I'm sorry. As much as possible,
it's not an organization. You mean?
I would like to shy away from that.
Okay.
So people don't come in thinking, oh, organization, I have to pay dues, I have to do this, I have to do that. No. This is just a space. This is just a gathering. This is just an Awujo. This is just an organic community of friends coming together with a shared vision, with a shared goal, because we have something that binds us together. We have a common tie that binds us together. So how do we begin to exploit those commonalities instead of making them divisive? How do we begin to utilize the resources we have as individuals to begin to exploit those commonalities, and seeing how we can communally together improve the experience that we have, that we will share in this space, whether we like it or not.
And as we wrap up, Augie, I realize, it's a known fact out there that the Black community is poorly represented politically and otherwise. And of course, we have issues of economic disparities among the Black people here. Are these some of the things you want to bring into what you're doing?
Yes, I think that the sharing of information is very, very key here, where as African Nova Scotians, we have so much to learn about the traditions that we've forgotten. Like, so when you think about the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of our knowledge of our motherland is at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
Or it's in blood on plantations, etc. So let's just say we can't go to ancestry.com and get back to generations. But the beautiful part is, so what do newcomers have for us, or new Africans who are coming here? And whether new is 30 years, whatever, because we've been here 400 years. So that they're going to bring in knowledge of customs and things that we forgot, things that we need to be reminded of as African Nova Scotians. So that's coming this way. And we'll have many presentations on food, on culture, on politics, on networking, on businesses, all those things. What do we have to offer as African Nova Scotians? Well, we're here. Like, you're in Nova Scotia or you're in New Scotland. So who knows New Scotland better than African Nova Scotians? And when you first come here as a 2% minority, it's not the same as Accra. It's not the same as Kingston, Jamaica. It's not the same as Lagos, Nigeria. And so what we can offer is a real understanding of the space we're in. And that's better for people's families. So you have children going to school. We want to give you a little update of what it's like to go to school here and have 2 Black children and in a class and 24 white children. I'm not saying it's negative, but you need to know that. So when you are newly coming to New Scotland, there's things that we can onboard you as brothers and sisters, as parents, on to be aware. It doesn't mean you're going to bump into racism, but you're going to bump into racism. It's going to happen. It is, right? So that's what we offer. So if we can share this information, then we're on eating from one bowl.
Right.
And when we're eating from one bowl, it's better for all our communities. We need people from the continent to wake us up and remind us of the beauty and our passions and our traditions that we've forgotten. What newcomers need is the locality, what it's like to live here. And if we can exchange those things, it's really going to be dynamic.
I totally agree with you, Augie, but I want to close with you, Kunle. So how frequent is this meeting going to be? You said you're not an organization, so you probably don't have a website, you don't have all that stuff. Is that true?
So the goal right now is to have these events, these gatherings every month, every last Friday of the month.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, we will leverage existing resources by way of social media to push the information out, informal and formal methods. And with time, we will look forward to building an informational website where people at least can connect with the past programs and activities and events and look forward to the subsequent activities and events. But beyond that, our goal is to really, really bring all people of African descent in this space together in an informal and unstructured and relational way. To begin to connect as humans, as individuals, to connect and share our common struggles, our common values, our common limitations,
Right.
and make a better life in this space that we call Nova Scotia.
Absolutely. Wow, this has been an explosive interview with you guys, and I'm aware that you also had to cancel some engagements to be here. We really do appreciate that, and thank you indeed for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much. It's
Thank
always
you.
a pleasure to be here.
Right, and that was Augie Jones and Kunle Fakiese, notable leaders in the Black community of New Scotland, and that is Nova Scotia. To know more about Awujo, why don't you reach out to us at communityupdateNS@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I am Promise Okoy, and I'll see you soon.